problem with this program is that there's no clock, so how am I supposed to know when I'm going to stop talking? But I'm putting my watch right here. That way, Baruch Hashem, I can't see it, so I can talk as long as I want. All right, so in honor of the fact that today was celebrated in Israel as Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israeli Independence Day, the 5th of the Israeli Shabbos, but they moved it up in order to avoid Hillel Shabbos, which is nice. I don't know if the present government would have done that, but in the old days they decided to do that. Right, so in honor of the fact that today's Israeli Independence Day, we're going to talk a bit about Eretz Yisrael, because the problem is the state of Israel is really a red herring in the understanding of our hashkafa of Torah Yiddishkeit. What do I mean by that's a red herring? Is that the all the discussions, the politics, whatever you want to say, whatever you believe about Zionism, not Zionism, all those ultra-right-wing lunatics, all those secular bad guys, whatever position you take on the concept of Theodore Herzl, his son Hans, who he converted to Christianity, so we didn't have to deal with all this. So he's not struggling with this today, right? And onwards and upwards, whatever you believe is really is really not so relevant to what you do today. But it gets everybody involved, and it's the Sutton's way of getting us to avoid what we really need to think about the fact of the dramatic hashkacha pratis, that we can just get on a plane, well, sort of maybe with a mask or whatever, but we can just get to Eretz Yisrael when we never could. As Rabbi Fish mentioned this morning, unprecedented Limud Torah in Eretz Yisrael, unprecedented spiritual growth in Eretz Yisrael, something that, take a time machine and go back, 90 years, 100 years, just go back to the people standing in line in Auschwitz and tell them that, you're flying off to Eretz Yisrael to make your son's bar mitzvah, and they'll never believe you. So there's a dramatic amount of hashkacha pratis, and it demands that we respond to it, and the response cannot be focused on what do you do one day a year. Do whatever you want on the 5th of the year. It's one day a year. How does it affect your whole outlook? And we're going to start with the Maimer Chazal. Chazal tell us, Kol hadar b'chutz la'aretz kilu oved avodah zarah. Anybody who lives, ladur, a dira, an apartment, kol hadar b'chutz la'aretz, anybody who lives in chutz la'aretz, ki'ilu oved avodah zarah. It's like you're worshiping idols. It doesn't say anybody who lives in chutz la'aretz is missing the mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael, which everybody holds there is a mitzvah kiyumis, mitzvah chiyuvis. No matter how you slice it, if you're living there, you certainly get a mitzvah, right? There's almost no question about that. But it's not what it says. It says if you live in chutz la'aretz, you're missing a big mitzvah. If you're living in chutz la'aretz, you're not as spiritual as you could possibly be. If you're living in chutz la'aretz, you're not. It says you're oved avodah zarah. You're like worshiping idols. Worshiping idols. Rav Moshe Feinstein was an Oved Avodah Zarah. Rav Hershel Schachter, Rosh Kol Yeshiva University, is Oved Avodah Zarah. Lubavitcher Rebbe is Oved Avodah Zarah. Ray Fish is Oved Avodah Zarah. You're an Oved Avodah Zarah. You got a lot of faults. Me too, not Oved Avodah Zarah. So what does it mean? Anybody who lives in Chutz La'aretz is as if they're worshiping idols. That's our question. To answer it, we do what every person does. We just completely avoid the topic and go to something else. We just finished Pesach. Everybody knows. Kadosh Baruch Hu comes to Avraham Avinu and he makes a promise. Bris ben Absarim. Right? Kadosh Baruch Hu promises Avraham, Ger Yezeracha, your children, your descendants are going to be foreigners in a foreign land. Vavadum vinu otam, they're going to be enslaved and be oppressed and be afflicted. Abba me'ot shana, for 400 years. That's the promise to Abraham. Right? Baruch Shemer Avtachas Yisrael, Kadosh Baruch Hu Chishev Zakech. Right? Kamosh Adamar, he promised Avram, he made a promise to Avram. And then after 400 years, he's going to go out with a great wealth and be a great nation. That never happened. God never did that. That seemingly never ever happened. First of all, Shevet Levi, the tribe of Levi, were not slaves at all. They were not slaves. God told Abraham for 400 years, Zaracha, your descendants, would be afflicted and be enslaved. The tribe of Levi was not afflicted, it was not enslaved. So it didn't happen to the tribe of Levi. So A, the promise was not fulfilled right off the bat. B, it was not 400 years, as everybody knows. It starts with the birth of Isaac. Right, so Isaac was a foreigner in a foreign land because he didn't control the land of Israel at the time. He was a foreigner in Eretz Yisrael. That's cute and clever, but the promise was, Ger Yezaracha be'eretz lo lahem va'avadum vinu otam. They'll be foreigners, they'll be enslaved, and they'll be in pain. They were not enslaved and in pain nowhere near 400 years. Most opinions say the slavery itself is only 86 years. They only need you proper 190 years, for gosh sakes. So what was the promise? It never happened. What does it mean? Best shot I ever saw. Right? Reisenberg's down, I'm pretty sure, in the name of Rav Schwab. See, when Isaac, Abraham's child, which is when the promise started to be fulfilled, your seed, when he walked around the land of Canaan, the land of Israel, he was in pain. He looked around and saw the morals of the society and said, what am I doing with these people? I got to deal with them. I got to do business with them. I got to hang around with them. Their morals, the way they talk, the way they dress, the way they carry themselves, I'm going to throw up. But that's just the way it is. We don't control Eretz Yisrael. I'm only Isaac. I'm only the second of the patriarchs. We're not ready yet for the redemption. But he was in pain. Jacob was in pain. The tribes went down to Egypt, and they were in pain. They gotta live in Egypt. What a moral dump. It stinks. It smells. These guys are scum of the earth. We gotta go shopping in their stores. We gotta do business with them, and we gotta talk to them on the street, and how you doing, and have a nice day. And while you know, your brother Joseph, he saved the day. Thank you very much. Let's get out of my face and go away. I don't want to talk to you. They were in pain. So the promise was fulfilled. Oh, but the 12 sons eventually died, and the next generation came up, and they were raised there in Egypt. They didn't smell the bad smell of Egypt. They didn't taste the bad taste of Chutz La'aretz. They didn't feel they were foreigners in a foreign land, which is everything that it stands for is antithetical to what we believe. They weren't in pain anymore. God said, oh, you don't feel the pain? I'll make you feel the pain. You want to feel the pain? You think you're at home? You think everything is great now? You saved the country. They love us. They need us. They would have no economy without us. We're here. We're good. You lost your sense of smell? I'll show you pain, bud. Bam. Enslaved. Tribe of Levi never lost their sense of smell. Shevet Levi, the tribe of Levi, never felt at home. They always felt the pain. They were always disgusted by the smell. They were always unhappy. They didn't need to be slaves to feel the pain. They felt the pain. 400 years the Jews were in pain. As long as they felt the pain themselves because they were not home and they're living in a society which doesn't really like them, does not appreciate them, does not want them, and that's good. As long as they felt that, God didn't have to create physical pain. You forget that, God says, I'll show you you're not at home. And for 86 years, all the other tribes, but the tribe of Levi, God had to arrange it that they were forced to feel, you're not at home. This is a disgusting place. You should start asking to get out of here. Kol hadar b'chutz la'aretz. There's two Hebrew words for to live. There's ladur, dira, an apartment, and lagur, to live. What's the difference? Lagur is to live temporarily. And Gary has a stranger, a foreigner. When Yaakov Avinu and the tribe, when they came down to Egypt, what did they tell Paro? Hey, Paro, lagur ba'aretz banu. We came to live here temporarily. What kind of baloney is that? Jacob knew he was going to die there. Jacob knew the bris ben absarim. Jacob knew there were another 190 years to go till the 400-year time slot was up. He knew they weren't going anywhere fast. Why does he tell them? Oh, well, we came here temporarily because there's a famine in Canaan, so we're here for the moment. What here for the moment? Says here Barbanel, it's all a question of attitude. Jacob knew they were going to be there another 190 years. He knew the future. But his attitude was, we're just here temporarily, man. However many years it might be, my attitude is, it's just temporary. Most people know we lived in Eretz Yisrael for many years. We came to Canada for medical issues for our daughter. The first year we were there, when we came, we needed a van, because we was in a wheelchair, we needed a van with room. So we bought a van from your classic Israeli Yored garage mechanic, all right? So I remember I went to pick up the van, And I started talking. I said, yeah, Tishma, Banu Lishana. We came for 1 year. And he goes, Habibi Kulanu Banu Lishana. We all came just for 1 year. It's all a question of attitude. And if you're asking me, Rabbi Feigenbaum, what the heck are you doing here? So why are you here? Very good question. You know what the answer is? I asked a shaila. Are there people that eat on Yom Kippur? Absolutely. Are there people that if they don't eat on Yom Kippur, God's mad at them? Absolutely. Would anybody eat on Yom Kippur without asking a shaila? I asked a shaila. We were here 1 year, second year, then we realized the doctors, they wanted us to stay, but we wanted to go back. It's a mitzvah of an Eretz Yisrael. What are you doing here for? We went to ask, she said, for your daughter, you have to stay. Our daughter grew up. I retired from my job as principal at Tiferes Beis Yaakov. I said, okay, we're going back. I asked the shaila. I spoke to Ron Feldman. He said, no, you have to stay in North America. There's stuff you got to do. You're doing programs. You got to stay here. Changed my plans. I stayed. You asked the shaila. And how do you feel when you're told that you have to eat on Yom Kippur? Does anybody go to their friends and say, ha, loser, I can eat on Yom Kippur, loser? You feel rotten. You feel terrible. You ask God, why? Okay, it's what you wanted to do. I get it. Yeah, it's a mitzvah to fast. It's a mitzvah to eat. Yeah, it's a mitzvah to eat. Yeah, I got the whole spiel. But I wish the day would come when I could actually fast on Yom Kippur. But okay, you don't want me to, so you don't want me to. I don't know why I do not merit to have the ability to fast on Yom Kippur. I wish I could, but I'll do what God says, which said, ask your rabbi. If rabbi and the doctor say, eat, you eat. You got to be in Chutz La'aretz. There's a lot of reasons why you have to be in Chutz La'aretz. Can't go to Israel if you're not going to be able to earn a living. Some people will be more religious if they stay in Chutz La'aretz. The Israeli system is very different, very tricky, doesn't work for everybody. There's a lot of reasons why you have to have parents, issues, medical. More than half of the young couples of my alumni who ask me about moving to Israel, more than half, I say, don't move. It's not going to work. It's not a good idea. You're funny enough, you're better off here in Chutz La'aretz. But you ask. And when you say you got to stay, you smell the smell, you smell the garbage. Kol hadar b'chutz la'aretz, ladur permanently. If you view Chutz La'aretz as your permanent place, we're here, we're home, we got it, we're set up, we're connected, they need it, we're good, we're here, it'll happen, we got it. That's avodah zarah. Then your value system is off. That's avodah zarah, giving power and credence and importance to things which are not really important. Does this mean that we do hishtadlus, we lobby, whatever country you're in, whatever hishtadlus works you do? In the old days, so you bribed the poorest and you paid off the whatever. Here, so you lobby and you money and you vote and there's ways that every country has. You got to do your hishtadlus 100%. We got to try and make it as good as we can for ourselves here. We're obligated to do that. But you got to smell the bad smell. Your attitude has to be, we're just here temporarily. Even if you know personally, you were told that you're not leaving this place till Mashiach comes, because you just got to be here. But it's temporary. It's not permanent. That's the attitude we have to the Kedusha, the power, the concept that Eretz Yisrael is where we're really supposed to be. Very first Rashi says, the entire Chumash Bereshis. All the stories of creation up until the Exodus, why did God bother to write it? What was the point? God created the world, and He gave us the land of Israel, and it's where we're supposed to be, and it's the place where you can do the mitzvahs in the very best way possible. And we all daven for the time when HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the opportunity that He'll allow us to actually do that. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.